Welcome to the Spectators Podcast. Here are your hosts, Corey and Jeff.
Alrighty, so we will move into talking about the NHL and the hockey landscape. Thanks for everyone for watching and listening to us. And please hit subscribe on YouTube, subscribe to our audio channels, which is Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and give us a like. I'm Jeff. That's to my neck adjacent here is Corey, where he's wearing a cheeky hat. Because the spectators know I am a Canucks fan. And they gloriously flamed out against those National Predators. That's on Corey's head right now. For those on the audio side, Corey is wearing a National Predators hat, and it's hurting.
Well, I had to, just celebrate their success and pull out the Nashville Predators hat. This is actually my partner's hat. She, at one time at least, was a fan of the Nashville Predators. I mean, honestly, it was a little bit of a blunder of a game. I watched the game. What do you think went wrong in that game? Like, what do you think it was from your perspective?
The Canucks? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we can continue to use that excuse, right? Of course, and they keep. The hard thing is we keep listening to interviews and everything afterwards, and same old thing is being told, right? We just didn't skate hard enough. We didn't play hard enough. We didn't want it enough. Like all the stereotypical hockey things are being said when you have a loss, but when you have that many losses strung in a row, and yeah, sure, we've had a couple wins here and there. You lost a game to another team who sucks. And the funny,
but like in spectacularly bad fashion.
Well, no, not really, because we've seen this already this season. How many times did we?
3 goals though. Like,
well, if you go back to the first couple of games in the season where they were up, 3-0 in the first period. Think of the Edmonton Oilers game at the beginning of the season. They were up 3-0 in the first period. Edmonton came back. We lost in overtime. Another game, we lost in overtime. Like this continuous trend of losing in overtime seems to be a blunder for the Canucks.
At least they're getting to overtime.
At least they're getting 1 point out of it. But do we even want that is the question. Do you want to have a team at this point? You're seeing a team have 0 success, like quite literally. You're sitting at the bottom of the division, or bottom of the division, and pretty much the bottom of the league.
Basement of the NHL,
right? So, like, if you know you're going to have a bad season from a fan's perspective, you and I've been watching them for a very long time, and if you think about it, like, do you want to see them lose and just continue to lose? And hey, we're actually in the draft sweepstakes, the Connor Bedard sweepstakes, or do you want to see them all of a sudden miraculously push themselves to number 15 in the NHL and not make the playoffs? Like, I don't know what the give or take is there, because like I feel like they're too far in now that they can make much of a difference. Like, of course they could go on a ton of string of wins, and the next team, and the next team could lose a bunch of games.
They are not the St. Louis Blues.
They're not the St. Louis Blues. I was just about to say they're not the St. Louis Blues. And to the Canucks, to take a little heat off the Canucks, okay? This whole season so far is not really playing out to be the way we would have expected with some of these teams, especially in the Western Conference. I mean, Dallas is leading the Central Division right now. They're having a great season start. Seattle is number 2. Vegas is number 1.
Seattle number 2 with Martin Jones as their starter.
With Martin Jones as their starter. He's been playing quite well, actually. I've watched quite a few.
He's always had it in him. It's just he's lost his game for but
they're having a great start to the season, better than they did last year. They with something we mentioned was earlier this season of our Spectators podcast, was that we mentioned that Seattle seems to have done the right steps to make improvement, and that's cool because you're seeing a team crew.
Not
Second
as
year.
having right on the bench. Like, maybe that's why they're winning, because they have such a nice cheerleader in the press box.
They have a nice cheerleader in the press box. They don't have to deal with his attitude on
Nice
the ice.
guy.
but needless to say, like, you expected Calgary to be up there. You expected Edmonton to be up there, and both teams are. Calgary's not in a playoff spot right now.
I did expect Campbell to struggle, though. That's something I'm not surprised about.
I think there was a lot of overestimation of how much of a difference he would make in their goaltending. Like, they've struggled with goaltending for years now, and I think there was a lot of people like, this is the year now. We have a consistent goal. Not necessarily.
5-year contract too,
and a 5-year contract, but I think Calgary's my biggest surprise right now.
But the thing with Calgary though is like, can turn it around. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like they've had a culture change, right? Because they lost Gaudreau, they lost Kachuk. Like if I'm a Calgary Flame fan, I'm not really actually too bothered.
You're not
right?
sweating too much.
Markstrom will find his game. That defense is really good. The forward group is fantastic, right? I'm not too worried. But like with the Canucks, like.
Well, I'm not too worried at this point because I know it's a blunder of a season. You know what I mean? Like, you look at this season, and I thought there would be some improvement over last year.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? I'm not saying like, I'm not feeling like I was going into this season with anticipation that they make top 3
in the basement. They'd be in the basement. No,
but I thought there was potential that they might get in the wild card. Maybe they'd be just out of the wild card. I don't know, but you think there would be an improvement on last year, and a matter of fact, there's no improvement. They were doing worse than they did last year. This is probably the worst season we've seen them in quite some time, to start at least. For God's sakes, the Chicago Blackhawks are in the last place of the wild card right now, the second wild card spot.
They are playing out of their heads, and Buffalo was playing really well too.
Well, Buffalo always has a good start to the season, though. They always.
Tage Thompson had 11 points in 3 games. Like, no one definitely saw that coming. But
great. Well, speaking of someone who's making a difference, okay. Well, not making. let me correct myself. Not making a difference, but speak of someone who's doing well on the ice. And I think this is working for his favor. We talk about Bo Horvat. Bo Horvat's been having a great season for the Canucks. Probably his best start that he's had in his Canucks history.
And it's that shootout the other night, but against Nashville. But anyways.
Well, I mean, his controller failed. The batteries died. That's what it looked like to me.
You can't blame a guy for that. Yeah.
You can't blame a guy for that. But he's been playing well. I give him props for that. He's been playing really well. His face-off percentage has been great. And the Canucks have no negotiations with the guy. So, I'm telling you now. The sad thing is he bleeds blue and green. He does. He's been really.
I think he's gone.
And no, but I know, but he does. He shows his loyalty to this team. He has over the last few years. We've had him since what, 2013, 2014?
He was drafted in I think you're right. 2013 was the Corey Schneider trade.
Yeah. So we've had him for a long time. He's been on the team for a long time. Well deserving of this captain role. He shows great leadership on the ice. There's twofold here. He's having a great season, which is great for him because his worth is going to be great, and a lot of teams are going to want to put him on any of their teams. If he can score and be a great face-off guy, great in the corners, everyone's going to want him. So it's good for him. But also they're not going to want to sign him because he's going to want too much. If he's having a great season, he's going to want too much. So we better see them make a trade for him if we are going to lose him. Make a trade that's going to be worth it for us. If they just let him go at the end of the season and he goes and tests free agency and ends up with the New York Rangers, or I'm just throwing out the New York Rangers, but anyone,
Vegas.
Vegas, that's another loss for us, right? That's another great player that just walks away and we get nothing in return. So
for me, I'm at the place now. Is he the only guy that needs to go by the deadline? Like, what we should have done in 2014. Do we actually play this right? As painful as it for me to say that I want another rebuild, I think we need another rebuild. Trade Demko.
You think?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you look at the team now, right? They made some mistakes. They didn't sign Horvat. They're not signing Horvat, probably. They just signed JT Miller to a long-term contract. They've got Oliver Ekman Larson tied up for a long-term contract. They have Besser for a couple more years and Pedersen for a couple more years here.
Petey's the bad one because he's making 8 next year, and then who knows after that.
Right. So you've got some bad contracts going in the next couple of years, especially knowing that you really have any insight thinking that next year is going to be that much different with this. It's going to be the same team. There's not going to be that much difference on the ice.
Anchored by a ton of bad contracts.
Then you got a poor guy like Thatcher Demko, who's on a team that is bound to fail. Where you put him on any other team that is a contender right now. But you put him on any other team that's a contender right now, and they're probably contenders, like a real contender for the cup, right?
Colorado, I'm calling, that's for sure.
So, like, do you even go as far as saying we give up what we have, build our assets up? Like, do you give up?
This is the draft to do it. This is the draft to do it.
I'm telling you right now, I probably would trade Demko and a good player, not saying who, but a good player, a good skater, to lock that number 1 spot whenever you can. It's hard because it's a draft lottery, but
once you get that first overall pick, whoever gets it, they're not trading. That'd be like trading away McDavid, right? So
right,
it's not going to happen. But like, do you trade Demko for a package though? Right?
Yeah.
Because as long as you have Demko, you're not going to get in the Bedard sweepstakes, right? He'll keep you out of it.
Yeah, no, for sure.
He's not playing well now, but he will. Like, he'll figure it out.
And he's not even playing bad. You know what I mean? Like, you look at him and you're like,
sucks.
You know what? You look at him and you're like, he's not playing as well as he has in the past. But he's by no means is he playing bad. I don't look at him and see he's playing bad. He's going through a little of a struggle. Everybody goes through slumps, right? He's going through a slump, and that's okay. He'll get out of it, and he'll be that goaltender again.
It just shows you how bad the team is. If
but the team's defense is garbage. I think like watching the games, the best defenseman on the ice over the last 5 games has been Luke Shen.
Or Kyle Burrows.
So Kyle Burrows, right? Like, I don't know.
Quinn's been playing well, but he's injured. He's dealing with something.
He's dealing with something. He's hiding it. But I look at him. I look at him, and I'm like, man, he's playing like trash compared to what I'm used to.
Yeah, he's trying, but it's just he's dealing with something, right? And I don't know why he's playing. He should, especially with all these new doctors they brought in. How many
games you give it till Bruce Boudreau gets fired? There's the question. Like, do they hit 20 games, or how many games you give them left in the season?
But if your management and your goal is to for Bedard, do you fire the coach?
True.
Not great for the locker room, but I mean that locker room doesn't seem like they're great anyways, right?
Locker room doesn't care.
Yeah, right. It took Kevin Bieksa coming in to have a speech for them to stay after practice and do drills.
Well, I mean, I would say, like, you look at him play for Kevin Bieksa, like, they better have put up a good game, like, to celebrate him and everything. They should have put up.
But they didn't.
They didn't even play up a good game. They
scored 8 goals to beat Anaheim. Like, so bad for John Gibson. Like, that man used to be one of the best goaltenders in the league, and he could not stop a puck to save his life that game.
Well, right. He hasn't been so strong over the last few seasons. He kind of reminds me of almost of that, like, Binnington effect. Like, had a really, really good season and then just kind of fell off.
Sort of. Like, Gibson was always a higher prospect than him, and he was a really good goalie. It's just, for whatever reason, just all the years of sucking really has affected him. And seriously,
right? It is true though.
Because when you play in a bad team, you have to worry more about, like, I think that's what we're seeing with Demko too, with the crappy defense, right? Like right now, if you look at some of the, like, most of the goals that are scored on Demko are these just like NHL like 22 level cross seam passes that you play when you're playing rookie, right? Like ridiculously bad, right? And right now, I was listening to Kevin Woodley, who's the goalie analyst. He's saying Demko's not cheating. He's playing the shot and he's trying his defense, right, to get the pass. That's what you do. You take the pass away and let your all-star goaltender take the shot, right? Mm-hmm. But getting across. So he's saying eventually in Demko's brain, he's going to start cheating because he can't trust his defense. And I think that's what happened to John Gibson, right? He's just played on bad teams and he just can't fully trust his defense, so he's cheating and he's doing other things, right? He's not really game, right? So, I do hope Anaheim throws him a bone and trades him at the deadline because he certainly needs it.
And I mean, I
anyway,
could sit here and ask you and ask anyone who listening right now, honestly, like, what do the Canucks do to turn things around? But honestly, I don't think they can. I honestly,
you gotta blow up that locker room.
I
That
don't
locker room
feel
needs a
like that.
complete
Yeah,
overhaul. I'm
yeah,
sorry, and that includes the coach too. Like
yeah. Oh,
it
of
does,
course,
right?
it does.
Like it's messy, and that Boudreaux was Aquilini's hire. It wasn't even and I've said this all along. Like the sense I got from this management group is they don't want Boudreaux.
Yeah,
I think they made it pretty clear. They just haven't said it. I mean,
well, they're going to show it. They're going to show it at some point.
He did say it, saying like he didn't know his contract went past 1 year. But it's just like ownership won't pay for another coach right now. So like they're just like, fine, if this is how you're going to do it, we're just going to let the team suck.
It's not even necessarily coaching though. Like I don't know. You could probably put.
I don't think it is.
If you throw what is his name, John Cooper? He's the coach for the Tampa Bay Lightning. He's probably one of the better coaches in the NHL right now. You throw him into Vancouver, and he couldn't even make a difference. The team is
a huge shakeup.
It's a struggle. And out of all the years that we watched them, I don't know about you, but I don't think I've ever seen them have this much of a struggle, consistent struggle.
Was supposed to succeed. We saw it obviously when they sucked, right? When they had Jay Beagle as their second line center, right? Yeah. But like, this is the problem: is you need a room shakeup, and Bo Horvat's the guy you don't want to be trading, but he's probably going to be the guy that's on the way out, right? Because he's sick and tired of this, and I don't blame him, right? Like they should have signed him first before Miller. I still don't understand why that happened. They probably bet that he's a hometown guy. He'll take a hometown discount. We'll get Miller done. What? That pissed off your hometown guy, and now he wants to go. So, like,
maybe he'll go to his hometown and go play for the Leafs.
Actually, I saw a tweet from a Detroit fan or analyst saying that the Detroit Red Wings had the pieces to get Bo Horvat. So you can tell that like other people in the league are thinking about it.
There's interest. I'm sure there's interest. There's probably a lot of teams interested in him right now.
But we'll move off one depressing topic, and I did really want to get to big piece of news that's happened in the NHL these past few days, and it's regarding one of our favorite teams, which is the Boston Bruins. We have another reason to hate the Boston Bruins. I'm not too sure if you were following the Mitchell Miller story. Do you know anything about it?
I've heard the name come up, but I haven't really paid much attention to U.S. teams other than Vegas lately, and I don't think it's come up too much. What exactly happened? Just for the viewer's sake too.
So those who don't know, the Boston Bruins announced the signing of, I believe he's a defenseman. Yes, a defensive prospect named Mitchell Miller. He was a fourth round pick by the Arizona Coyotes in 2020. Now, the Arizona Coyotes renounced that pick due to discovering that Mitchell, when he was a teenager, viciously bullied a person of color who was disabled, and physically assaulting him, like pushing him and stuff, like nothing too serious, nothing too egregious to what I've read, and then took a lollipop and dipped it in a and gave it to and tricked the boy into eating it, and he's charged. He was charged. I don't know which state he was living in, but he was charged and had a criminal record. And once Arizona found out about this, they renounced the pick. So then a couple days ago, Boston Bruins announced they signed him
as a free agent. I'm guessing. Yeah,
but no one wanted it because of
what happened. Yeah,
it happened, right? Any logical person would understand, like not want to sign this kid, right? Mm-hmm. So there's two things that was concerning about this story. One is that Boston basically did no due diligence, right? They just they had a press conference. The Mitchell gave a really stupid apology, saying like what I did was a bad decision. No, that's not a bad decision. A bad decision is like me forgetting to set my alarm in the morning and I'm late for work. That's a bad decision. Not hellaciously bullying and just anyways. Having a criminal record, that's not just a bad decision, my friend.
And it's not like a he stole something at the store when he was 10 years old. Like
Like,
it's a
it was a
legit.
targeted,
Yeah.
like, anyways, um, that Boston didn't talk to the family. They didn't follow up
Right.
with any sort of pieces there. The other kicker was that Boston wasn't the only team that wanted him. Like, look at the contract he almost signed, because today they announced they were parting ways. Because anyway, we'll get to that in a second. There was more than one team that wanted him because he got bonuses in his contract, in AHL and NHL level, which you don't get if you don't have leverage, right? So yeah, so Boston signed this guy. Of course, Boston being a very popular team in that area, I think Massachusetts. The media of this kid that he bullied, and it wasn't just one incident; it was multiple incidents. Yes, he did apologize, but talking about Mitchell Miller, he did apologize, but it was in court. The victim wasn't there, and had reached out to the boy at all, even though in the press conference he said he apologized. The victim's family said, yeah, he reached out to him last week via Instagram. So there's no real indication of remorse here. It's just, oh, I'm gonna get signed now, so I need to go out with Boston and make it seem like I actually care, which he didn't. And so as the story continues, the NHL comes out the next day and says, yeah, he's not eligible to play in the NHL. Boston never talked to us about this. And Gary Bettman said he's not eligible and to play in the NHL. And I don't see a path where he ever will be.
Okay.
That's how serious this is, right? And so on top of all this, Mitchell Miller's agent comes out and gives a long, stupid letter about like, oh, he's done this, he's done that, yada, yada, yada.
He's trying to gain some retribution, trying to feel better about, yeah.
So the caveat to this letter is that like some of the stuff he did was court mandated community service. That doesn't show remorse when you are forced to do something. A. B. They mentioned a organization he volunteered for, to which that organization came out and said he's never volunteered with us. But he never responded. Right. So then you have the agent coming out basically lying and really showing that this kid has zero remorse for what he did. And then eventually today, as of a few hours ago, Boston announced they are parting ways. This prospect due to in light of new information. And information is the information they could have gotten before they even went on this avenue. Now, it did come to a good end. Miller's not going to be playing NHL or be an NHL prospect and won't be playing NHL ever. Maybe he can go to Europe. I don't know. But just another, it makes Boston look awful. What was really interesting about this entire thing was I really don't know who in the Boston organization wanted this kid, because Patrice. So the boy he bullied had a disability. Bergeron has a box at TD Garden for kids who have disabilities. He was asked by the media what he thought about this, and he was like, yeah, not really the greatest signing, but whatever. It's not my decision, right? So it's just, I wonder and it was brought up, someone said they talked to an executive, and like this was, I don't know, Arizona. Right? Or something, a smaller market that there's not a lot of media. Would this be a thing? I don't know. But like, it's disturbing to me that Boston was the one who ended up getting the egg on their face, but they weren't there. But they were not the only team that wanted this kid. The only team that said.
Do we know any of the other teams that wanted him? No.
It's the NHL. But like, it's disturbing. It's disturbing that it's just like. They're gonna ignore it. Like, if this was any other profession, he would he will, outside of hockey, he will have a hard time finding employment because he has a criminal record. This shouldn't have been a reason for him, like, it's because he can make some really greasy apology. Like, the fact that he even got to he signed a contract with Boston was appalling, right? Like, this kid should not be playing sports ever again, in my opinion, right? Because, well, let me caveat on that till he actually shows remorse and actually says, you know what, I really do need to try, and not put on this facade that he's been putting on, right? Anyways, it was a really frustrating thing for me to read because like we've had a whole episode, you and I, talking about hockey culture, right? And it just seems like it seems to continue, right? Yes, this one had a good ending, but only because me picked up on it and actually ran a story with it. What if it was like New Jersey? I don't know, like, or it's like a smaller market that just doesn't have the media
Right.
around it, right? Right? Like, what would have happened, right? So
Well,
it's just so
well, the
frustrating, and
crazy
it's so,
the crazy thing is, you wonder sometimes, right? You wonder. You're like, did Boston know more than they let off? You know,
actually, I don't think they did. I think they saw this prospect and they wanted to sign him, and
but the
they
fact
knew
that
he hit.
that happened anyways without doing due diligence. So say they knew, say they didn't know, regardless. Of course,
Well,
if
they
they
knew he had a
did know,
record. Like that was common knowledge. It just they just didn't talk to the
see,
family.
and
They
that and
didn't.
that and that bothers me because it's like if you know somebody has a record, you know somebody has an issue, look into it, do some due diligence. If you didn't know they
Well,
had anything, then fine. But if you knew they had some sort of background,
just appalling after what we saw with Kyle Beach, right?
yeah,
You would think after what happened with Kyle Beach and the light that's been shown on hockey culture, everything with Hockey Canada that we've seen, right? And you and I have talked about it ad nauseum, right? Like this is still happening.
mhm,
Like when is this going to stop? Because like it offers a concerning message of like it doesn't matter what you've done as you can put a puck in the net or transition a puck out of an end, we'll sign you. That's what Boston tried to do basically. They were like, you know what, let's just move on. That's what basically what they were saying. You know what? Yeah, whatever. Might be a bad decision, but let's just move on. It's like no, it doesn't. Like that should not be how it works. Like the NHL is a brand, and it's important. It has a good message. Yes, again, the kid is not playing, but like the fact that we are even having this discussion is disturbing. We just went through a massive thing where we saw a man in Kyle Beach get sexually abused by someone on an NHL team, and it got covered up completely, right? And it's shown a light on how concerning hockey culture was, and we're seeing it again, right? Not to the same level. I'm not saying this is the same level as Kyle Beach. I'm not saying that, but the same kind of behaviors existing because. Yes, Boston was the one who got the egg on their face. They were not the only team that wanted to sign this kid. That is concerning. Why are we not seeing a change where we know that like they're not going to hire convicted criminals
exactly.
who have no remorse for what
And
they did,
and
right?
that's simply why I asked too. Like, did they know anything? They say they don't, but like out of all the teams that potentially wanted him, all those teams didn't do any due diligence. They didn't look in. They didn't know anything, or are they just brushing things under the
Didn't
rug
care.
again? Again, like, are they just brushing it under the rug? And it's again this like, don't ask, don't tell culture of hockey that it's okay. As long as the guy can put up 30 goals a year, that's and make our team win. That's what matters because dubs mean more than anything else. Which I think is just it's appalling. It's disgusting, and you're gonna it's hard on the league. It's hard on the team. Boston's a really, really popular team in the league. They bring in a lot
Well,
of
it's hard on that
representation.
family because like
It's
the
hard on
family
that
now has to face
family.
this
It's
crap
hard.
again, right?
Exactly. I just mean like what I mean. I'm not saying this in a sympathizing way to Boston.
Of
What
course.
I'm trying to say is that this is going to put a lot of limelight on the team in a bad way, a bad manner that
And they're
you got to
playing so
imagine.
well right
And they're
now.
playing so
Like it's
well
just
right now. You're going to have a lot of players who are going to think twice about playing there. Just like a lot of players are going to think twice about playing in Chicago. Those teams are both original six teams. They both have a lot of notoriety in the NHL. And you're now putting bad light on those teams because you made a stupid mistake because you didn't pay attention to what was going on. You didn't.
well, and it's interesting too because one of the Boston's owner, Jeremy Jacobs, he's on the board of directors, right? Like, he's board of directors of the
Of the
NHL.
NHL,
Like
yeah, to
that
make
is
that clear.
not a good
Yeah.
look. Like he's the one who would have known that they were going to sign this kid. Like they don't sign players without knowing, like without the owner knowing, to my knowledge. But because Jeremy Jacobs isn't a guy that I know is not involved with his team. Like he obviously knew they were signing this guy too, right? So
It
like
just
that's just
makes you
not a good
question a
look.
lot of things about what goes on behind the scenes, and like you said, we've talked about topics like this ad nauseam before, but we need to keep having conversations like this because there are continued issues like this. This isn't going to be the last time we're going to see something like this happen. Unfortunately, I hate to say it, but it's not going to be the last time. And what do you do? What does the NHL need to do to put a stomp on things like this? Like, what do they need to do? Do they need to become more transparent about the way things go? Do the teams need to show more transparency before players are, actively signed and actively engaged with? Like, what needs to happen for this kind of crap not to happen again? Uh,
Well,
I don't,
it's a hockey culture thing, right? Like it needs to like it's a sport thing too. Like this hockey's not the only sport
Mhm.
that says okay, you can put goals in or whatever,
Yeah,
and
you're not wrong
they can
about
get
that.
away.
Yeah.
Like it needs to change because it sends a very concerning and like think of it like with Hockey Canada too, right? Like we've discussed that ad nauseum, right? And they're making slow changes, but like all those young men that they just let get away with sexual assault, right? They're gonna go and assault more people now. They're go like that example is shown by other teammates who can other kids, other children, other young children because they're 18, they're still kids. That it's okay to sexually assault people because you're going to get away with it because you can play hockey.
It goes back to that whole culture of like this is what happens in. I mean, we're not a part of this. We're not by any means famous, and anyone who's in limelight in terms of fame and being a celebrity, they get away with things that the general population isn't going to be getting away with necessarily, and you see it unfortunately in these sports too. You know, if anyone who is of notoriety in the NHL was to do anything, they're gonna get away with it because this is just what I don't want to throw any names out. Like I don't want to throw any names out, but take your top stars, right? Like I'm not throwing any names, but take your top stars. You imagine they do something wrong, they get convicted of somewhat of a felon, whatever, regardless of what the issue is, they're going to get different treatment because they can put the puck in the net and they can score. They're going to try
Mm.
to do whatever they can. The team will get the best lawyers in place to do whatever they can to get that person off so they can continue playing for the team. And if they don't continue playing for that team, they'll play somewhere else because that's just how it is. And this it goes along the way for anybody who has value to their name, I guess you could say. Um, it's just more needs to be done. Things need to change. The culture in hockey needs to change. We've talked about this before. I'm not
Well, and
gonna.
it's the thing is the NHL has it in the Hockey Diversity Alliance, but they don't work with them,
They don't
right?
work
And
with them. They
it's
don't do enough to. I mean, there's other issues. There's you imagine there's other issues. There's bound to be going on in the sport that don't even get touched, don't even get talked about, don't even get noticed, and some things that we don't even think about as spectators, as fans, we don't even think about, or we're not privileged to, but sometimes you just don't even know, and there's probably so many things that just get brushed under the rug that poor kids. Uh, Adults, uh, people of color, women, um, underprivileged kids, underprivileged adults. It doesn't matter. But there are so many people who probably go through so many things we can only imagine, and it all gets brushed under the rug, and nothing's changing to make that situation better, to be more transparent about what goes on in the league. Um, it's kind of sickening to think like even the fact that I said 5 minutes ago, you know, this isn't the last time something bad is going to happen, right? We're going to see something bad. We're going to see something potentially be worse than what we've seen this year come out. Hockey Canada is so tarnished at this point. They'll have to release anything that's ever happened in the past. That
yeah, we're still
um,
unraveling that mess.
we're
That's for
still
sure.
unraveling that mess, but we're gonna find out more probably in the NHL in years to come. And it's just you know, it's a bad place to be from a fan's perspective, and someone who cares about these diverse issues that happen. Um,
Mm.
Yeah, I don't know. Bad blunder on Boston's part. This is gonna bite them for a long time. But you only
So
imagine
it should. It was a pretty
it
shameful
should.
thing to do.
It should. It's gonna bite them for a long time though, and it bites the game of hockey too. It does.
Absolutely, and I just hope that
The
folks that see
family.
this.
I was just gonna say I hope that the family can feel some sort of justice that you know Boston decided not to go through with it, and they're
Exactly.
able to you know part ways, and hopefully we don't see um, uh, Mitchell in the NHL at any point, because I can only imagine being that boy that or guy that what's going through your head and the family's head when you see
Mm.
something like that just kind of get brushed under the rug, and then oh yeah, this guy's going to be a famous athlete, and
Yeah, it doesn't deserve it at all. So I hope
yeah,
when people see this kind of stuff that they do, because like it starts at minor hockey, right? So I hope folks who are influential in that area are having those conversations with their players, men and girls and boys, right? About respect, about you know like being good humans, right? Like all the good qualities we see in hockey, right? Like it gets more highlighted, right? Like that's where it's going to start, right? And I just hope that as more of these incidents come out, right? Like no one saw the Hockey Canada stuff coming the
no,
way it did, right? And let's just all the folks are gone now, right? All the senior executives are gone now, right? They're going to have board elections here, I think, in the next few weeks. There's some good names that are attached to it, right? So all we can hope for is that through this darkness of these stories, right, of the Kyle Beach stories, of the Hockey Canada stories, of this blunder, that see change, right? Because this is a sport that I love, and I want my kids to love and experience, right? And but if it continues to show that it's going to be abusive and indicative of get away with whatever the heck they want because they're good at a sport, and that's concerning to me. And I hate that it makes me think that do I want to put my kids in this sport, right? And I've said this to you before, right? When we've talked about Hockey Canada, like I don't like that, but I need to see more. I need to see more of what they're doing, right? Because right now the NHL stopped this signing, but like really what have they showed us that they're making cultural changes to the game, right?
nothing at this point. So we have to see more.
Certainly. Anyways, we'll stop there. Pretty somber hockey hockey talk with the Canucks and with the Mitchell Miller incident, but it's like I said, it's important to talk about, right? Because it's November, right? And we talked about men's mental health, and we're talking about men right now, right? And it's important that we do bring these issues up, right? Because we've long time in hockey, it's a culture of silence, right? And it's important to bring this stuff up, right? Because stops that culture of silence.
Yeah,
It has someone like Kyle Beach, go to the media, or I mean, speak to people within his organization, but like it's just important to know that like even though you're a man and you've grown up in a culture of silence or culture of toxic masculinity where accessing your feelings or admitting you've been abused is a challenge for you. It's help out there for you, right? And don't be afraid to access it.
100% agree. We just want to do whatever we can to make people aware and be comfortable to feel like if you're in a situation where you're struggling, get help that you need because there is help out there, and yeah, it's a tough topic, but you know, we gotta take care of ourselves and do better in terms of different improving the awareness and the cultures and not just hockey, like you said, just multiple sports and just you know uh,
Really.
situations like this. So yeah,
Hey, spectators, thanks so much for listening. Much appreciated. Please subscribe on YouTube. Leave a comment. What are your thoughts on hockey culture?
yeah,
Are you seeing a change? Or if you're not, what do you want changed? Right? What is like specifically that you're thinking that needs to be changed with hockey culture? Right? That'd be really cool to hear your thoughts on that. But yeah, leave a thumbs up. Subscribe on our audio channels too. So we check those channels too. Leave a comment. We'd love to know what your thoughts are on this topic, because it's a pretty big topic, and it's everyone's voices that will help with the change. But anyways, as I always say, my beautifully bearded friend, thanks for chatting with me.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks, everybody. And we'll catch you at the next one.